Hey all, Doug Paget here. It's been a year since I started playing guitar. It was January 6th of 2022 that I bought my first guitar and made a little video about that, saying I'm about to embark on this journey. It's been a really great year. Going into that point, I had never strummed a guitar intentionally in my life. I had never held a guitar as if to play it. I'd carried around other people's guitars. I loved guitar players. I spent a lot of my life and time in working with and being in awe of guitar players, and really saw it as the magical thing that it is, that people can take their fingers and wire on a piece of wood and make emotion and make songs, and it was just otherworldly to me, and something that I really regretted that I had never learned to do as a child. So when I was 55 years old, I said, I want to start playing guitar. And from a dead stop, have played all of 2022, every day except two. I put a guitar in my hand and strummed and played, or took a lesson, or learned a finger picking style, or learned something about notes. I want to tell you a little bit about that journey, what the experience was for me, what I've learned, how it's impacted me, and the rest of it. And I don't know, maybe some of this will be encouraging to some of you who are learning to play guitar or are learning to do anything else sort of new in your life. It's been interesting as I've said to people, hey, I've started playing guitar, and I tell pretty much anyone who wants to know. It's part of my personality, I guess. But I tell people that I'm learning to play guitar, or that I've just started playing these kinds of things. When people say, hey, what's up? What are you doing in your life? What's going on? You know, any opportunity I can to tell people, that I'm playing guitar, and try to encourage them to consider it themselves. But it's been interesting as I've done that with people and told them that I'm into guitar now. They'll say things like, and these are all true and really great compliments. They'll say things like, well, it's good that, in later years or older age or something, that you learned something new. Or they'll say, hey, it's really good for your pathways, it's really good for your neurodevelopment. It's I've heard the phrase neuroelasticity more than I normally do as I go through my average day when I talk to people about the fact that I'm playing guitar. I think all that's true. I actually do think it's helped my brain. And a couple of things I've learned about playing guitar, separate from the actual skills themselves. In a year, I've gone from not knowing how many strings were on a guitar. I know that some guitars have more than 6 strings, but 6 or 12 is sort of standard. I didn't know that a year ago. I didn't know certainly the standard tuning names for the notes, or I didn't know anything about chords. I didn't know how to make a single one. I still can't read music, but I certainly couldn't have read a tab, or if somebody had said, what's a typical chord someone plays, I didn't even know the names of them. I didn't know anything about A, B, C, D, E, F, G, back to A. Didn't know that. I mean, I knew my alphabet, but not as it related to guitars and guitar chords. Still learning a lot of that, but I don't know, I've probably got 30 chords that I can play at some manner, some level. So I've learned a lot in this last year. But one of the things that's been really obvious to me is that taking on a new hobby like this, a new skill, a new project, it's interesting how we just stay the same people we were before. We've added this new thing. I don't think I'm a different person. In fact, I've brought all the same characteristics to playing guitar that I've used in so many other things. I get sort of obsessively committed to it. I try to approach it with a lot of compassion for myself, and trying to have a learner's mind and take it easy on myself. I dive all the way in. I really get into something like this. That's partly why I've played every day except 2 over the course of this year. I took one of those days off. It was just happenstance of travel that I didn't have a chance to play. And the other day I took off intentionally just so I could tell myself I'm not that obsessive. I didn't play every single day. I took one day off on purpose. That kind of thing. But what it strikes me is we're just the same people applying our same way of being in the world to this new skill. And I was really glad to do it, and really excited to bring all those skills to bear. There's people in my life who will say things like, oh, this is just such a Doug Paget way to get into something. And I totally know what they're talking about. I really like that. So I just want to encourage you, if you get into something new, or guitar or something else, don't think you're going to be another person when you do it. Don't think, hey, there's a part of me that I've never really accessed, or there's a way that I wish I was. So if I start this new habit, project, skill, then that'll allow that new way of being to come out. I think what you're going to find is you're going to take all those skills, all those ways of being, and apply them to this new way. And you can become a better version of yourself. You can grow and develop. But the you that's in there, that's the primary thing that's going to come to the surface. At least that's what I've noticed in all this. So look, I'm really proud of my guitar playing. I'm still not very good. My strumming is still not something that anyone with any musical taste would want to listen to. Rhythm is a very difficult thing for me, being able to sort of move my foot at one pace and my hand at another, and then ever to try to sing or something. Oh, I mean, it's just nearly impossible for me to keep any kind of rhythm going in my brain. So that's something I work on most every day. It's going to take a long time. But look, I can play songs. I can play through a number of songs now by memory, which is just really amazing to me. And basically, I've developed some musical capacity. I hear differently. My daughter said very kindly the other day, I think you're a better singer now than you were before, which, is only at a measure of improvement. That I think she's right. I'm not good at singing, but somehow I hear differently. I'm listening differently, and there's a difference between hearing and listening, so I'm listening with a different kind of range and a different intention. So it's really interesting. And then trying to, listen to things and then mimic them is really something. And so, yeah, I've developed some musical capacity. But most of all, what I want to say about all this, what's happened to me is I just love it. The number of times I've come up out of my basement and come upstairs and said out loud to no one, or said out loud to Shelly, who is my wife, man, that's fun, or I just really love it. It's really great. So that's what it's been about. And I will say this, it is super hard. I mean, playing the guitar in and of itself is just an incredibly difficult task. Playing the guitar as a beginner, as a total novice, someone with a negative amount of musical ability, oh my gosh, it is so incredibly difficult. So playing every day, trying to get an hour or sometimes 2 or more hours in a day into playing is something I've realized from the guitar teachers that I follow, and I follow a lot of them. I have in-person guitar teachers, I use online courses, I watch a lot of videos on YouTube of different songs and different techniques. So I have a whole range of guitar instructors, some that are personal and some that are just internet. I'm just an internet fan of them. It takes a lot, and people spend a lot of time developing their musical ability. And that's something I've had to learn, is that, look, you're going to be a beginner for a very long time. I'm now comfortable saying I'm a guitar player. A year in, I'm comfortable enough saying that. But that doesn't mean that most of what I'm going to do in the future in a guitar I have not yet learned. That's really true. It just takes a lot. And people who are good at it, man, they have put in hours and hours. I heard this great podcast where the person was talking about spending time with a real guitar aficionado, and he was doing all kinds of amazing things. And then there was a question and answer time after his performance, and someone said, if I practice 7 hours a day, I don't think I could play the way you do. And this aficionado said, if I only practice 7 hours a day, I wouldn't be able to play the way that I do. Like literally saying, I practice more than that. It's really hard. And so anyone who can make any sound out of it, no matter how old you are, how long you've been playing, just know you're doing something really incredible and kind of magical. But it takes a lot, and it's a real commitment. This is one of the reasons I think a lot of people stop playing, and I don't blame them. If I wasn't sort of the personality that I am and finding such joy in it, I'm sure I would have stopped playing as well, because it just takes a whole lot. So it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of commitment. And, the key is the commitment. Commitment's not the thing there's no secret to commitment. Commitment is the key. So that's what that's the thing about guitar, is it's just wonderful and beautiful, but getting to that beauty, man, it just takes so much time and energy. My fingers, they have literally hurt for 365 days. There has not been a day where if I touch the end of my finger, I mean, they're actually a little bit better now than they have been. But that pushing on that spot is not like, no, that's tender. That's a little tender. And people would say things like, it's going to take you a while. Your fingers are going to hurt for a bit. Oh yeah, no, they hurt for a bit. A year, and they're still quite tender. And it's that kind of a real experience that I think goes into all this. Yeah. Okay. Here's. Part of the fun of guitar for me, and this is just partly my own personality, is the actual instrument. The feeling of it, especially the acoustic guitar, strumming that thing and feeling it resonate through my rib cage and my back and my hands, and just the physicality of that guitar on your body. And that's one of the things that I didn't know I was going to like so much, is just how much you're hugging this thing and how close it is. Over this last year, I've ended up I bought a first guitar. I had a Seagull S6, which I really loved. I didn't know anything about guitars, and people told me, hey, if you're going to start playing guitar, you got to get one. And I chose to go buy a new one as opposed to just asking around for someone. And I got really great advice, go into a guitar shop and sit down and just start playing. The thing is, I didn't know at all what I was even looking for. I would have appreciated a little bit more help from people who know, and just the way that I am about the world. A little bit more help on, hey, here's what you might notice when you go there. I felt like I was walking into an art museum for the first time, and I didn't even know the artists or the style of art or what the different mediums of art was. And so I found myself just sort of milling around and asking questions, and everybody wanting to give me a whole lot of freedom. I would have appreciated a little bit more input, and I picked up some, on guitar sizes and shapes and scale lengths and all of these things, because I didn't even know what I was comparing. So I bought the Seagull S6 because when I strummed it just rang in a way that felt differently than the others. And that was a great guitar, and I had it for about 6 months. Then I sold that guitar and bought a different one, and then that started me down a path of like, hey, you can buy different guitars. You don't have to stick with the one that you have. You can sell one and you can buy another one. And oh boy. Okay, so that's a world, right? And my friend Dustin is one of the great guitar players that I know. Sent me some little meme about some joke of how many guitars are too many. And he said just one more than what you currently have. And I really get that sort of vibe. And I'm a bit of a buyer. I'm a bit of a collector of things. I like that. I like gear. I like stuff. So, the guitar is a great little playground for that, because, you can start talking about picks and capos and foot stands. And I ended up borrowing an electric guitar from that same Dustin. And so now into amps and into different sounds. And, maybe you need a little pedal controller to be able to switch between sounds quickly, and boy, that's a whole world that opens up. So now I own a couple of different guitars, and I remember being over at my friend Josh Cleveland's house, and he is a professional musician. He had a number of guitars in his basement. This is before I had started playing, and didn't even know I was going to start playing guitar at this point. About a year and a half ago, and I said to him, "Hey, you have a bunch of guitars. Like, why do you have different acoustic guitars, let alone different electric guitars?" And he said, "Well, they sound different. Sometimes I tune them differently," which I didn't understand what that meant, and I barely do now. But he also said they just feel different. They make different sounds, and because I had never made sound with a guitar myself, I didn't have any idea what he was even getting at. But now I do. So, I have one that's more of a dreadnought style. It's big, it's kind of boomy, it gives a big full sound. I've got this one over my shoulder that's a little bit smaller, and it feels different as it sits on my lap, and the sound comes out of it different, and that inspires these different experiences. There's truly, there's songs that I hear that I'll start playing on this guitar, and then I'll be like, no, I think it really should play on the Yamaha, and there's something about it. So there's this magic of these instruments. Just out of happenstance, in October, I was able to go to the place where they make Martin guitars and walk through the factory and to see their process of making these almost entirely by hand. I mean, there's some cuts that are being done by machines, but these things are being glued together by hands and using clothespins to hold the pieces together while the glue dries. And I started to really understand this reality that these are instruments. These aren't just production pieces. They're something being made, and each one has its own feel and its own vibe. And boy, that has been fun to be in the guitar world and space. And I've started to like this stuff so much that it's become entertainment a little bit too. I watch YouTube videos on, guitars I have no intention of ever buying, just because I want to hear and understand what people are talking about and what different tone woods and shapes and sizes and strings and how a different brand or style of strings on a guitar makes this huge difference. Now, is any of that kind of noticeable to someone else? And my skill is still so rudimentary that, no one's going to really tell the difference between the body shape of a guitar that I'm playing versus another one. And I've actually recorded them, with my little voice recorder on my phone and listened back to myself. And I can tell that I'm not better on one than the other. They sit differently in my lap, though. They feel differently against my body. When I'm playing or when I'm picking or when I'm thinking about that guitar as it sits on my lap, that's what's different. That maybe the sound isn't so different, but my experience with it really is. It's really something that moves between the guitars. And that's the thing I wanted to say about all this gear and that you can get. And I like that stuff. I like looking around. I spend more time at guitar shops and Guitar Center than I ever really thought that I would, or I've ever had a reason to be in there. And it's because there's an entire ecosystem that sort of helps you get what you're up to, find this world, find this language, find this this way of communicating that's going on. So there's something really mystical about just that, right? That there's something much more happening in this guitar playing and holding different guitars and strumming different guitars and feeling them. I've even noticed that standing up and playing with a strap and the guitar is then hanging a little further and I'm not quite over the sound hole and not feeling it the same way changes the whole experience. So playing standing up or walking around is really different than sitting. And so, maybe you can tell I still really geek out on all this and feel so young in this world of learning, and hearing these different things. A couple of times I've sat in on some playing sessions, which is sitting with a group of people and people just pick a song, you look in a songbook and you start strumming along and someone sing. Only 2 times have I had the privilege of doing that. Boy, that's wonderful. I'm trying to find more chances and more places to do that. That's not only guitar teachers say that's an important thing to do, but I can really feel it, and feeling the difference in styles of play and guitar, different guitars that people have just say something different. Really quite amazing. And I had no idea of all of that. I knew there were different guitars, different brands, but I didn't really know anything about the qualities or the tones or the feel. I remember saying to a friend, Roger Flyer, on Roger, hope you're watching this, on Facebook, like he said, I think he said I have 3 guitars. He calls them the 3 sisters. He put up this picture of them. And I remember writing to him and like, okay, so why do you have 3 guitars? Like, I'm still trying to crack the code, at that point. I'm like, what's the reason and the rationale for that? And he said all the right things, which was, just little hints, little head nods to, I don't know, go play a few more. And as your skills get a little bit better and you start doing some different, finger picking styles, you start to feel this different rhythm that comes from certain guitars, and you just want some of them to sit in your lap differently, and some of them you want to strum in this more aggressive way, and some of them you want to strum real gently. And I don't know, it's just really something how much variation, what a little community there is of the people and the players and the tools and the instruments, and just the picks the different sound that you get from the material or the thickness or the rigidity of the guitar pick. I mean, it's just endless. It really is something. So, all right. So at year one, being a 1-year-old guitar player, I now am comfortable saying I play guitar, and I'm starting to really play songs. I mean, I still do my scales every morning. I do finger exercises. I actually love that kind of stuff. I love the spider walking up and down the neck of the guitar. I'm learning the different notes along the guitar so that I can start to adjust. I'm able to put on a capo or be able to move a bar chord, which I now can play, a couple different bar chords. So I feel like I'm now a player, and that allows me now to approach songs. Look, I've been playing songs all along. I mean, good guitar teachers just start you out playing songs, So, yeah, I was playing For What It's Worth, and I was playing Three Little Birds, my first week, because that's what the online guitar instruction sort of has you do. And then my incredible guitar teacher, Tim Lyles, helps me to understand the guitar and think in notes and be able to move your way around and understand what's making all of that happen. So that's where I find myself. I think I'll make another one of these a year from now, and hopefully it's not I kind of got tired of that guitar playing stuff. I can't imagine that happening. So I hope I'm able to say, at year 2, here's the experience. Here's what I've learned now that I'm playing guitar for my second year, and I've looked back at the first video that I made on January 6th, 2022. Saying, well, I bought a guitar and I'm going to start playing guitar. And what I didn't know, and I remember myself from then, and I remember how I was, and look forward to this a year from now. So I was thinking maybe I'd play a little song at the end of this, but now I'm too in my head about it. So look for some other guitar playing songs in the future. But happy 1-year anniversary to whatever it is that you've been up to for a year. And maybe a year from now, you'll be onto something new yourself. And so, all right, my little guitar update. Bye.